Another fun episode, another interesting episode, another amazing lady on my podcast. So, welcome to Boss Your Business and now also your mindset, because as you evolve, my podcast evolves. And today I am excited to bring you Carly Pepin. Did I actually pronounce your last name right?
Yes, perfectly. Thank you.
Yes, we are getting better. Carly, tell my audience, who are you? What do you do? And how did you get here?
Yeah, so I'm a human behavior specialist and I work with business owners and entrepreneurs, assisting them in just overcoming the perceptual challenges that are happening. So we get the mindset shift so that when we get the inside right, the outside starts to fall into place, right? So I love doing those components. I got into it because of that, specifically when I was, how old was I? Like late 20s. I kind of had my own little midlife crisis, moved to Australia thinking that that would solve my problems. It didn't solve my problems. And then I realized that everything comes from the inside, not the outside. So yeah, when I came back to Los Angeles and I got to finally understand human behavior and the dynamics of how to transform and shift our own perceptions, it took me from really hating a place to actually having this is one of my favorite places on the planet. Like, I'm not sure, I know I'd live other places, but this is my home. Yeah. And it's funny to see how the mindset shift just sort of transformed that experience. So now I apply that to business, relationships, and all areas of life, for myself and others to help them like create that life they love as well.
Oh my God, there's
Mhm.
so much already just in that intro. For anybody just listening and not watching this episode on YouTube, you have not seen my smirk when you mentioned midlife crisis in your 20s. I'm moving to Australia. Guess how I got to the States, running away from something in Germany. I'm like, I'm happy. I love the States. I love being in San Diego. So we got a perfect result out of it. But yeah. Do you think our 20s are kind of like this? I know everything, and suddenly by the end of the 20s, it's like, oh my God, what the hell was I thinking? Is that kind of like a common thing, or is it just me?
And it's funny that you say that. I don't know if everyone has this in their 20s, but my perception was it was like I thought I knew everything that you were supposed to do to have a great life. So I actually had a house, I had a home, I owned a home, I had the car, I had a job, I had a great job, and I even had other job opportunities that were so inspiring. And even in like the entertainment industry, which I know people just really want to do in LA, right? And it was interesting. I know, like
I'm like,
I had it.
I'm not. I've been
Oh,
I've been in the
yeah.
entertainment industry on the B level, and I'm like, I'm good.
It's a lot.
I'm
It's a lot.
good.
Once you get in it, you're like, this is not what I thought it was. But I still really
Mhm.
enjoyed it, but it's like, it's not what I thought it was. But yeah, it's interesting because like you have all these components, and that's what I thought was there to make me happy. And so I kept ticking off all the boxes of what you were supposed to do, but I wasn't happy. I just wasn't fulfilled. And so it felt like this crisis in my life where it's like, what are you going to do? What do I want to do? I'm waking up every day. I'm going to this job. I just remember being so bored and so unfulfilled. And I just remember thinking there has to be more to life than this. And so it is part of it's just like getting rid of that perception of all the shoulds, the supposed tos, and trying to reconnect to that person inside of what you really want to do.
And like, I feel that so much. Where why the heck are we being taught this is what it's supposed to be? I'm like, I spent first marriage happened because I'm supposed to get married and white picket fence and a doggy and all the things, right?
Yeah.
And I look back now being in my 40s, and I'm like, I'm happy where I'm at. I'm happy not having the white picket fence. Me personally, I am exploring a complete different relationship style than married to one person. And I love I love everything you're describing, and I love the language you are using too. Our perception, our view of the world. There is no right or wrong. Just because
Mm-mm.
we see ourselves in a specific situation wanting specific things, and somebody else sees it completely different and wants something completely different, both of those truths can live in the same universe, and it doesn't make the other one wrong or not possible or whatever. So just love listening to you with all of this. So we both really similar in our 20s. We know all the things. We know what we are supposed to be doing, and the stuff is not working out. So you packed your bags and just went to Australia of all places?
Yeah, I had one friend who I met him in high school and we stayed pen pals. So it was like back in the day where you like hand wrote letters and
Mhm.
stuff and some emails from time to time, when you had AOL.com email.
Oh my God,
uh,
you have Bill.
back in the day.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So we actually stayed in touch. So yeah, when I went out there for a work trip and I really loved it.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's really beautiful outdoor culture. It's perfect for me and what inspires me, definitely. And he happened to be out there and he was like, if you want to come, I have an extra room. You can rent a room in my house. And so I did take him up on that opportunity. It was interesting though, because when I got there, here I'm thinking that everything's going to be better, but it actually got significantly worse. And yeah, it got so much worse because what I realized is that I've been running away from all these things that I thought were external, but they were not. Everything was inside me. It was one of the best things that I ever could have done for myself because that slam that I got, I realized in those moments, it's time to do the inner work. And I had never done inner work before. Like you do inner work in your own way here and there, but I hadn't never understood the depth that you could go. And it's when I found my first coach, I started to learn about life purpose. And it was actually phenomenal because here I am sitting, I had an eating disorder like my whole life. I had anxiety, and my anxiety started to shift just by understanding my
Mhm.
purpose and aligning myself with it. And I got off anxiety medication in a couple months, which was amazing for me. And then also just being free from like food owning you, which if anyone has ever had an eating disorder, like they understand, like
Mhm.
it's funny because people will be, they talk about addictions and stuff. And in my perception, freaking food was the hardest because you don't open up your fridge to like a fridge full of crack cocaine, but you don't. You can totally avoid it, but you open up your fridge and you're like, there's food all the time, every day. How am I going to overcome this? Right. And so I went from having to I used to have nothing, like no food in my house because I just couldn't control myself to just now food goes old, food goes bad. I have so much food in the house. It's crazy. So when I started to have those insane transformations after working on the inside, and it was all linked with life purpose and priority, I was like, man, I want more of this. And I want to start to teach it and integrate it into my day-to-day life to a greater degree, which everyone has access to. Everyone has the capability to do the exact same thing that I've done, that you've done. Like we all have it. Yeah. It's just finding our own unique path. And once we connect it with it, it's something that you don't want to give up. And it's like we go through the pleasure and the pain and the pursuit of it. It's not, can I get it done? It's like, I'll get it done. I don't know how yet, but I'll figure it out. I'll make it work. I know those things are purposeful to people. And the more we invest in those, the more fulfilled we feel.
I think one of my biggest lessons of going within, because that's the only way you can find answers, in my opinion, um, was that shift of being completely honest with myself. That was not an easy one. That was not an easy one. Being able to say, here's a perception, because often enough it's just a perception. It's looking at something and I perceive it in a way based on my past, based on how I perceived something, my parents saying that they meant completely different, but it hit like, you don't know what you're talking about. Whatever it is, all of those limiting beliefs that simply comes from me perceiving my parents, them having their own stuff they carry around, and being able to start this inner journey, start this growth with having to take responsibility and be honest with myself.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful component. And I love that there's a quote by BJ Palmer. He's a father of chiropractic. Take no credit, take no blame, just keep focused on your chief aim. right? So when we're sitting here and we're blaming ourselves for things, we're wanting to be puffed up and proud, we're not really focused on our mission. We're not really focused on what's truly inspiring to us. We're actually highly distracted from it. So those perceptual shifts actually clear that noise of wanting to take credit, wanting to be puffed up for some reason, wanting to be proud, wanting the praise. Like we seek praise, and also just getting out of that dynamic of just completely shaming ourselves, putting ourselves down, like having all this guilt on a regular basis. Those are incredibly distracting inner dynamics. And as opposed to doing that, it's like, take no credit, take no blame, just keep focused on your chief aim. It's one of my favorite quotes. And I say it sometimes, especially in challenging moments. I'll just be like, take no credit, take no blame, just keep focused on your chief aim.
I've never heard that one before, and I really, really like it.
I love that one.
Where I think where one of my biggest shifts happened in that process was not just being honest with myself, but also stop lying to myself. So where I'm making this distinction, and I would love to hear if you have seen similar situations. It's not just about saying, hey, this is what's not right. Let's fix this. Let's change this, and being honest and taking that responsibility, but also switching it around in a practical sense of, when I said I'm sending the email, I'm going to send the email. When I told myself I'm going to go work out, I'm going to work out, and stop lying to myself when I'm saying I'm going to do these things and then I'm not doing those things. That was such a profound change and realization with such a huge impact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is a beautiful one to discuss, because like when we talk about this, we label that procrastination, right? Like I say, I'm going to do all these things, but I'm not doing it. And then we sit there and we beat ourselves up for not doing it. As human beings, we are quite spectacular, and we don't even realize it until we just take a deeper look. Every time you put something to the side and you don't do it, you're actually spending time and investing it in the thing that's more important to you. And I don't care what it is. I don't care what's going on. I remember one lady, we were working together, and she was like, but I'm just watching TV. And it's like, well, what are you actually watching on TV? And then we uncovered she's watching solving mysteries, and like she's watching a lot of lawyer shows and stuff. And her biggest top priority and challenge in that moment was getting through a huge lawsuit. And it's like, okay, so what are you actually learning from that? And we could actually see where watching some of these shows has actually helped her in her case. Not to say like, I know they're fiction, but also a lot of these writers are doing a lot of research to get some very accurate facts as well. So she was getting some really great information. She'd go back to her lawyers, and that would be helpful for her. So she's prioritizing what's truly important, getting over that lawsuit. If you look at your day and you're not doing what you think you should do, need to, or supposed to do, it's like, well, what did you do instead? Because that shows me that that's what's truly valuable to you, and then making sure you do a portion of that every day. If you're not doing things that you love, you're not going to feel fulfilled. And I've seen, even in my own life, is like, how do I incorporate all the things that are important to me? I love working, and you'll find me at my desk so much, but I'm also a bit of an exercise nut. And I'm like, okay, if I don't fit this in, like, I know I'm not going to feel as good. And not because I need the exercise. It's just, I love everything that it gives me, the learning and the growing and like being outside. And so it's like, okay, cool. Just schedule everything in and you'll see it. I make time for that. But there are things that I don't make time for that fall through the cracks. And then it's being truthful. It's being honest with myself and saying, is this actually important to me? Is this a goal that I'm actually going to pursue? And sometimes I say, no, it's genuinely not. Like, I don't want to. And sometimes, like, if you're a business owner, it's like, well, this is necessary for my business. So it's time, if I'm not going to do it, it's time to get the help.
Is it though? Because often enough,
sometimes it's not.
Exactly. When I work with clients where it's like, coming back around to the what I am supposed to be doing, and anybody that's not watching the video can't see my face right now because we have the same thing in our business, right? We are supposed to be doing this thing. I'm like, who says?
According to who?
Says? There is so many different ways to run and market your business and work with your clients. It's you get to choose. are you supposed to send an email every day and post on social
Yeah.
media 5 times a day? Who says?
I
Who
have a
says?
friend who loves exercise more than me, and I feel she walks like 10 miles a day, no joke. But she takes her consults on a walking treadmill. I'm consistently, I see her, like, whenever I talk to her, it's like on a walking treadmill, and she's moving and walking, moving and walking. She has set up her life so that it can revolve around what's important to her, and there's no good or bad. She hasn't lost any clients as a result of that. In fact, people are usually quite inspired. And so it is true. It's like, what do you love your business to look like? What do you love your life to look like? And how do you incorporate the two? Because you're right, there is no one way of marketing. People so many times are like, how do you get clients? How do you do this? How do you do that? And I'm like, for me, it's been repeats and referrals and meeting people at events that I'm inspired to be at. And that's my actually main source of business, right? And I could go out there and do what everyone else says with all the funnels and all that, and it works, but it's not as inspiring to me as the form that I'm getting in it now. So why do it if I don't want to? And my business is thriving. So do I need to? Not really. And even like the next stages and the next steps for like we're doing more business to business now. I don't get business to business clients from like doing the funnels. I'm getting it from just reaching out and connecting. Cold calls sometimes, right? But I like that more. That's inspiring to me. If that's not inspiring to you, you don't have to do it. You could be completely disconnected.
I'm sitting over here and I'm hearing cold calls, and it's like,
Yeah.
ah.
I call it business. I'm like, I'll show up at your door.
That's exactly what it is, right? You
Yeah.
found your way that works for you, and
Yes.
you love the process
like
of
it.
cold calling. And I'm like, you couldn't pay me enough to do cold calls. And that's the joy of really going inside and figuring out what fuels you, what's right for you, because we have so many different ways of doing things.
So many different ways, and whichever way is your favorite. One of my friends, she loves doing Facebook marketing and she loves doing the funnels, and I'm like, you do you, girl, and it's like, you do that component. One of my clients, she's like a master networker, and so for her, getting her clients is all about just connecting with her people and providing service and providing value to like all of her massive connections, and then they give her clients, and so it's like, what way do you love to do it? And when you figure out that way, go for it. DoubleTree hotels is a really fun example. I love
chocolate chip cookies.
So
Talk about they've done their marketing right. Those chocolate chip cookies. Yes.
Okay, so they have barely any marketing budget. They don't actually market. You want to know why? Those chocolate chip cookies. So chocolate chip cookies are their marketing tool. As opposed to spending a fortune on advertising and marketing like other brands do, they have word of mouth. And so people know DoubleTree because they're like, I went to DoubleTree and had a chocolate chip cookie and you got to go. So their referrals are from these warm chocolate chip cookies that you show up. And so we could sit there and be like, well, DoubleTree should do this or they should do that. But here's a company that built a business being inspired by just giving people a warm chocolate chip cookie when they arrive. And then all of a sudden the word spread like wildfire. It's amazing. So it's like, what do you love to do? Like, and how do you put that into your business that makes you unique enough that you even have word of mouth in that way, where people can't stop talking about you? Like things like that. I love stuff like that.
When back in the day when I was still doing VIP days, there was a long intake form, and it is a pain in the ass. Let's be honest. Nobody wants to fill out a form this long. But for a VIP day, I needed to get this information, and I don't want to spend an hour on the call tickling this information out of my clients because they need to look up this and get this login and all the stuff, right? It's not their best time spent on the call and not mine. So what did I do? I had fun with it. I'm like, hey, I know I already mentioned, and I already prefaced that on our intro call where I'm like, hey, this form, it's intense. I know, but here's why we do it. And you know what? When you get this form, I'm also going to send you a gift card to Starbucks. Go grab yourself a coffee, walk the dog for the ones that had the dogs, grab yourself a breakfast, come back home, enjoy your coffee, and then just fill that in. I made it as fun as it can be.
For sure.
So it's like, just there's so many different ways of being able to say, I don't want to sit on an hour phone call with you finding all your logins and figuring the stuff out. I don't want to. But you know what? There's $10 that I actually already got from my client, right? It's in the cost of what they're paying me to do for the VIP day. I'm not out any money. $10. Go grab yourself a cute little sandwich and a coffee and make it an experience. So there's so many different ways how we can just do our business different.
Absolutely. And delegation is also like a really big key too, because as your business grows, you don't want to be doing all the nooks and crannies and the admin stuff. I know people don't want to do admin. So it's like starting to delegate the things that you don't love to do so that you could just wake up and focus every day on the things that are most inspiring to you and provide the most value.
And with that, looking at all of those moving pieces, going inside, figuring out what works for you, building the business around yourself and what's right for you. I know for me, and probably for a lot of my listeners too, one of the first things that pops up in that is like, but who am I to decide to do this? So I know you have an amazing freebie for my audience. Tell them about your masterclass about overcoming imposter syndrome, because I think it fits perfect into all of this. That's what I dealt with when I started running my business, how I wanted. I'm like, who am I to do this?
Yeah, it's genuinely your destiny to be fulfilled. Like it's genuinely your destiny. You live by a certain set of priorities in your life that are most inspiring to you, your unique values, your intrinsic values, and it's your destiny to actually experience those on a daily basis. And that's where you feel most fulfilled and inspired. So it's like, who are you to do it? It's your destiny. And if you don't start taking action on it, you're going to attract challenges that keep trying to push you into it. So just start doing it, man. Like, trust me on this one. It's worth just doing it. And the imposter syndrome component, this one's really inspiring because when we think about imposter syndrome is brain noise. When you have those shoulds, supposed tos, need tos, have tos, and we ask that question, according to who, that's the imposter that is literally taking up valuable real estate in your mind. And as I say, they are not paying rent. So we want to get them out. Right? So going through the imposter syndrome thing, it kind of tells us why that happens, how those comparisons actually come in, why we actually have those comparisons, the subordinations that are occurring, and how to actually identify them so we can transform them. Because the truth is anything that you see on the outside, you have within. It's just that you haven't owned it in your form yet, right? So I can look at a great athlete and I can say, well, I love how every day they dedicate themselves to like keeping their body healthy and like doing what they love, making sure so they can do what they love. Well, every day I know I wake up and I invest in myself to make sure that I do what I love, right? I'm doing it in my form. So there's no difference between me and any other person. We're just doing it in a form that aligns with our life purpose. And when you take that off, the imposter syndrome goes away. Now, all of a sudden, I don't should myself on what things should look like. And I say, well, what do I want to do? And what would I love to do? And sometimes it really is still in alignment with what I thought I had to do before. And I'm like, I actually do want to do that, you know, or I'm like, I don't actually want to do that. I'm going to do things a little bit differently. And this goes for business as well, because you'll go out and you'll look at people who have businesses in a certain way, shape, or form, and you'll put yourself in the pit. You'll have this comparison. That's the imposter syndrome. And then noise comes in the brain. That noise is your intuition and your mind, your misperception. It's like it's arguing with each other, trying to get the answer. And that's why it feels so loud.
Oh, God.
And that's why like people are like, it feels so loud up there and it's so confusing because it's like an argument inside your head. And so the noise is like, you should do it this way. You need to do it that way. You're supposed to do it that way. But there's some part of your intuition and you can't fully hear it yet because that noise is so loud, but you know that your intuition's like paralyzing. You'd be like, something's wrong. The intuition will first come in and be like, something's not right. I don't know what's happening, but this doesn't feel good. Something's not feeling inspiring or fulfilling about this. And when we clear the imposter syndrome, that little voice on the inside gets louder than the voices on the outside. And all of a sudden those dissipate and the clarity comes through, the certainty. And you're like, I know exactly what I want to do. I know exactly where I want to go. And now I know how to do it. You know, and it's cool because we get to work on this bit by bit as we start to grow and evolve. We don't want to think that it's going to get over right away because you're going to get to one level and then you're going to compare yourself to a new person.
Killing it on
Yeah. We're gonna keep comparing.
Oh, there's another one. Fun. Let's do the next one.
And it really genuinely is fun, by the way. I know that in the moment sometimes it feels stressful, but what the fun part is and the inspiring part is, I think it was Einstein who said it, but like one of the greatest discoveries that he's ever gone through is just uncovering himself, you know, and your place in the world. And that's what, like, with this stuff, that's what I'm asking you to do, to go on one of the greatest discoveries. You won't get sick of it. Once you get a hit, like, you just don't get sick of it.
It is. I remember the moment when I finally felt home in my head and my body.
Yes, it's huge.
Makes the whole work worth it. Now, guys, as always, you have the link to this overcoming imposter syndrome masterclass in the links all below. You can connect easily and effortlessly. Just click the button. Don't even need to know the link itself. Carly, where can people find you past the masterclass to go stalk you and see all the things you're doing? We only stalk in good ways here, guys. We only stalk in good ways.
I definitely do that as well. So we're good to go. So you can definitely come to my website, carlypepin.com. And I have my social media links on there. So you can either connect with me directly on the website, or you can also just find one of my social media links, whatever one platform that you love the most.
Love that so much. Thank you for joining me today, guys. As always, all the links are in the description. I'll see you in the next episode. So if you haven't done so yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Carly, thank you so much again for joining me. Such a fun episode.